Chairman of the Seattle Seahawks, dead at the age of 65 due to complications from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, a disease he had been battling for some time, which aggressively returned within the last 2 weeks. His family releasing this statement: "My brother was a remarkable individual on every level. While most knew Paul Allen as a technologist and philanthropist, for us he was as much a beloved brother and uncle, an exceptional friend." Paul's family and friends were blessed to experience his wit, warmth, his generosity, and deep concern for all the demands on his schedule. There was always time for family and friends. At this time of loss and grief for us and so many others, we are profoundly grateful for the care and concern he demonstrated every day. We've reached the top of the hour here on NFL Network. This is NFL Total Access, presented by Bridgestone. We continue on with the breaking news. Joined by Steve Weich right now. And Steve, you covered the NFL for the entire time since 1997 when Paul Allen purchased the Seattle Seahawks. This is breaking news that's in the last 1 hour plus here to the pro football world, the sports world. He owned several teams along with the Seattle Sounders, right, and the soccer team and the Portland Trailblazers as well. Yep. But the technology world, absolutely, and the business world, this was one of the titans of all industry in the world by virtue of his Microsoft fortune, co-founding it, of course, with Bill Gates. But your thoughts on hearing the news and reaction from around the NFL?
Well, what we're seeing right now, even though Paul Allen was probably one of the least visible NFL owners, you rarely saw him. Sometimes you'd see him on the sidelines of Seahawks games, or when you see him courtside at Trailblazers games. He was deeply involved, Scott, with his players. All you have to do now is look through social media, and you are seeing Marshawn Lynch and Bobby Wagner and Pete Carroll and everybody offering very heartfelt feelings. That means he personally touched them. He was around. He answered their questions. We heard Nate Burleson, a native son of Seattle, our colleague, he played for Paul Allen with the Seahawks, talk about how he was very involved, even though, again, he was very low-key. You did not see him around very much. But the fact with the technology, some of the medical research he's done, he was always a sounding board. He didn't serve on any committees with the NFL ownership, okay? But he is somebody who was, again, cared very deeply about Seattle, his clubs up there, the Portland Trailblazers. So it's just, we've seen a dynamic the last few years where we've lost some leaders in the NFL. Tom Benson of the New Orleans Saints, Alex Spanos, the founder of the Chargers, died within the past week, even though Dean Spanos has been running, controlling interest of the team. So, again, there's a succession plan in place with the Seahawks right now. We don't know the specifics of that right now, but I think everybody is just kind of feeling the sting of losing a man who clearly, again, if you check down social media right now, touched a lot of his players and coaches and staffers with that organization. Yeah,
this is breaking news for us here on, being a pro football network with the owner of one of the 32 teams, but this is undoubtedly breaking news on news networks across the country right now as well, being as his life touched corridors and business and technology and the sports world and here in the NFL. Speaking of which, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell releasing this statement a short time ago. Paul Allen was the driving force behind keeping the NFL in the Pacific Northwest. His vision to lead the construction of CenturyLink Field and the building of a team that played in 3 Super Bowls, winning the championship, the raising of the 12th man flag at the start of every Seahawks home game was Paul's tribute to the extraordinary fan base in the Seattle community. His passion for the game, combined with his quiet determination, led to a model organization on and off the field. He worked tirelessly alongside our medical advisors to identify new ways to make the game safer and protect our players from unnecessary risk. I personally valued Paul's advice on subjects ranging from the collective bargaining to bringing technology to our game. Our league is better for Paul Allen having been a part of it, and the entire NFL sends its deepest condolences to Paul's family and the Seahawks organization.
So young, so unexpected, a tough day for a lot of people across the NFL, particularly those that are involved with the Seahawks organization, like Cliff Averill, who joins us now on the phone. Played for the Seahawks for 5 seasons. How will you remember Mr. Allen?
Wow, Paul was interesting. He was a lot different from a lot of the other chairmen or owners of these teams. He was one of the first people, actually, once I signed, to text me before my family, before anybody else, but also just what he's been able to do outside of technology, outside of the Seahawks, and what he does for, from a philanthropy standpoint. He's been able to do so much. He's been able to just, just impact people's lives more so than just himself. And we lost, an amazing person today.
I've seen, you said that he was one of the first people that you heard from when you signed with the team. I've seen other people mention something similar to that on Twitter, saying that he went out of his way to know his players, to know their names, that he was unlike some other owners. In that regard, what does that do to a team, to a locker room, to have an owner that does that kind of thing for them?
Yeah, he's always in the background. He's never the person to be the rah-rah guy or anything like that, but you always see him at the wins and losses. You always see him in the locker room shaking each and every individual player's hand after a game. And it speaks volumes, again, to his character and how he viewed us players as just as not just being an employee, but a person. And I think that was huge, and it's impactful for all the players to see, this guy, this person that you've read about, that you've seen about, and he's actually here and showing you and respecting you as a human being is huge, and it shows all his organizations have done well from a sports standpoint.
How much credit do you think that he deserves for the Seahawks' success in these last few years?
Oh, huge. A lot of it goes to him. For one, not just, a lot of these owners are I don't want to say cheap, but, they don't want to spend any money on their players. They don't want to spend any money on facilities. They don't want to spend money on being innovative and understanding how guys recover and all these different things. And he's all in. He's all in. Whatever the organization needs for the players, he would basically check off and say, "Hey, go ahead and make it happen." And he plays a big role in just the run that we've had over the last 8 years of just players being so consistent and being around these players and just allowing them to just be better athletes all the way around.
I mentioned it to Nate Burleson. It struck me in these last few years in particular that he seems to be an owner who kind of stays out of the way. You had a lot of very vocal people there in that locker room that expressed their opinions about a number of different things from a society standpoint, and it never seemed, from the outside anyway, that bothered him, that he wanted to get people to kind of quiet down. Would you say that that's a fair assessment on my part?
Oh, very. He was all for guys wanting to make change. I mean, heck, if you see what he's done with his foundation, he's all in on guys trying to make a change, and he encourages it. He never once came to say that we don't need to do this or we shouldn't be doing this. He was all about making change in this world, and if anybody was with that same mission, he was all in for it.
I think a lot of people outside of the football world hear the name Paul Allen and think of everything that he did with Microsoft and might not draw the parallel to that person being a huge football fan. You have talked about the fact that he's not a rah-rah guy when he was around, and people have said that he's not exactly outspoken. He's kind of a quiet guy. How involved was he in the football decisions? Was he somebody who you would actually talk football with, or was he just there and offering up support?
No, you can talk to him about any and everything. I don't think I've ever actually held a conversation with him about football outside of shaking his hand after a football game. You know, it would be more so, again, about my foundation or his foundation or what different things that they might be working on. But it was never really ever about football when you held a conversation with him. And that was pretty cool to see, you know, as a young person, I was 26 when I got here, and just being able to communicate and converse with him about things outside of football, it inspired you as well.
Well, Cliff, thank you so much for sharing your memories with us. Our condolences to you. I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Some more reaction now coming in via social media. Marshawn Lynch, Raiders running back, of course, spent several good years as the Seahawks star running back. Big dog, rest easy as you go home at Paul Allen. Prayers for your family. Bobby Wagner, I believe we have. There he is, the star linebacker. Rest easy, Paul Allen. Praying for you and your family. Appreciate everything you did. I think we have one from Pete Carroll. Deeply saddened by the passing of Paul Allen. I'll miss him greatly. His gracious leadership and tremendous inspiration will never be forgotten. The world is a better place because of Paul's passion, commitment, and selflessness. His legacy will live on forever. Back with Steve Weich here, and Steve, those tweets right there speak to something that you and I, covering this team in the media, kind of felt when you'd be around there, is that while he may not have been the biggest hands-on owner or even the football expert that some other NFL owners are, he loved his team, he loved his players, and he wanted to set them up for championships.
Well, we just heard Cliff Averill talk about how he rarely had a football conversation with Paul Allen. He talked about the support that Paul Allen gave to Cliff, to his foundation, other players' foundation. Look, this is the wealthiest owner that there was in the NFL, and he provided the Seahawks coaches, front office staff, every resource they needed for the success that they've had. That also goes to some of the individual players. And I'm sure there are stories that we're going to start hearing about him, what he did for people in the building, from people in the training staff to administrative assistants. We see through his charities the type of person that he was. Yes, I have all this money, but I don't need to keep all of it. I'm going to try to share and do what I can do to make this world a better place. And again, you see the string of tweets coming around. One of the first tweets to come out is Dwayne Brown, the offensive tackle. He hasn't been a Seahawk for a full season yet, and he clearly was touched by his interactions with Paul Allen. For somebody of that stature, Paul Allen's stature, to come in and reach out to Dwayne Allen and make that connection in such a short period of time, it's where Dwayne Allen felt to make a public proclamation about his affinity for the man. That just goes to show you what he's done for everyone there. And again, he wasn't a visible owner. He's not Jerry Jones. He's not Robert Kraft, where you're going to see, you know, talking to the media a lot and being in commercials and things like that. But his impact, as you heard Pete Carroll say in that tweet, his legacy will live on forever, and that's something that all of us are probably trying to achieve.
I'm friends with a man by the name of Judah Smith. He is a pastor in the Seattle area. He also is one of the unofficial chaplains of the Seattle Seahawks and speaks to the team before the games and whatnot. I was having a conversation with Pastor Judah a couple of weeks ago, and he said, yeah, when Paul Allen comes into the locker room after a win, he just beams about how happy he is for this group of men to succeed at something that's so difficult to do, beat another NFL team. And he said he would describe kneeling down and holding Paul Allen's hand right there in the prayer circle in the private intimacy of the locker room, a victorious Seattle Seahawks locker room. And that's just something that I just thought of a couple of minutes ago in a memory of Paul Allen right there. Let's bring in one of our colleagues right now who has covered the NFL like you and I have for years and years, and someone who has covered the NFL owners meetings, really the time of year that we get to meet and interact with the owners more than others. This is Judy Batista joining us via telephone right now. Judy, this was a different type of owner. I don't know if that's the way to put it, but Paul Allen wasn't just a conventional NFL owner. How so?
Well, first of all, he had vast interests that went well beyond football. He was a very low-profile owner. I would echo what you guys were just saying. He was very low-profile. I can't recall ever seeing him even at an owner's meeting, which is not to say he was not very active. He poured millions, hundreds of millions of dollars into research, into brain science, into traumatic brain injury. He started the Institute for Artificial Intelligence. He was very involved in philanthropy, very involved in supporting the arts. He was a huge Jimi Hendrix fan. So he had a wide array of interests. He was a really fascinating man. You would see him at games. He'd be on the sidelines, very quiet. I rode in an elevator once with him at MetLife Stadium, very quiet with everybody else. But he certainly did not keep a high profile by NFL standards, rarely granted interviews. He was not what anybody would consider a hands-on owner, but he gave the Seahawks any resource they needed. Obviously, they have a state-of-the-art stadium, a state-of-the-art training facility. He went out and hired Mike Holmgren and then Pete Carroll, very sought-after coaches. So he gave the Seahawks everything they could possibly want to be successful on the football field, but he did not put his fingerprints on the team. He said, in the occasional interview that he did give, he knew his limitations. He knew he did not know football as a sport, but he was happy to fund the Seahawks. Don't forget, he saved the Seahawks from relocation. Yes. At the time that he bought the Seahawks in the 90s, the previous owner was looking to move the team to California, so he saved the Seahawks for his hometown.
And that was the first line in the statement of Roger Goodell speaking on the life of and impact of Paul Allen, saying that he was the driving force behind the Seahawks remaining the Seattle Seahawks. Judy Battista, thank you. Steve Weich, thank you. NFL Network's continuing coverage of the life and passing of Paul Allen continues after this.
Want to dominate your fantasy league?